My youngest sister, Patricia, came to Laurier 10 years after I was at Laurier. She studied at the seminary. She ended up marrying a fanatical Argo fan and learned all about football. They attended every Grey Cup that's gone on ever since they've been married, and most of them I attended with them. And so we always talked football, because she knew more about football than I'd ever learned. I told her a little while ago that I got a message from Coach Mike that I was going to be awarded a Legend of the year 1976. She looked at me and she said, no, I said I was going to be elected a Legend in 1976, or 1967, sorry, 67. And they put on my picture of the announcement that I was a receiver. She says to me, Laurier never threw the ball. All receivers ever did was just block. They must have made a mistake. And it was one of the few times that I agreed with my sister on anything about football. I do believe the selection committee made a mistake. The year they chose, in 1967, was my first year at Laurier. And I'm going to have a difficult time always using the word Laurier because for us it was Lutheran. So I might make a mistake. 1967, I was about 70% through my first quarter of my journey on this planet. I've always looked at my life on this planet in quarters. I was on my way to Western. I was going to go to university at Western. A good friend of mine who was the athlete of the year at Lorne Park, the best damn sports school in western side of Toronto. The fellow, Ken Will, was the athlete of the year before, and he had gone to Lutheran. I ran into him as I was on my way to Western. He says, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to Western." The biggest business school in the country, considered the best business school in the country, the biggest talent pool, and they also claim to have the best football team. My friend says to me, "Oh, you got to stop in Waterloo before you go there. We got this coach. You got to meet this coach. This is the best coach." And he told me everything positive about Tuffy Knight. He was so excited about his first year of university at Lutheran because they went to the College Bowl. I said I would come and join him in Waterloo and meet the coach. I don't know if that bridge is still there, where their offices were between the TA building and the residence. But anyways, walk into the coach's office, Coach Knight. Kenny tells Coach Knight about PG is, he is the best blocking guy that you can have in a running game because he did that for us back in school last year or 2 years ago. And Coach Knight looks at me, and I don't recall him saying, "Hi, how are you? I'm Coach." He says, looks at me, he says, "I don't know whether you're tough enough for Lutheran ball." First things out of that man's mouth. I don't know whether you're tough enough for Lutheran ball. It kind of jolted me because I just listened to myself sound like what Kenny was telling them, but I was a bit of a rock star. Because I was a blocker, and Lutheran, all they did was run the ball, so like the hand and glove. Anyways, that was, at the time of my life, 70% through the first quarter of my life, I was very, very busy calibrating the 4 critical directions of the compass of my journey. And there was the calibration of the first thing. Yesterday doesn't matter. It's like looking in a rearview mirror. And with those words, the coach says, "I don't think you're tough enough to snap," that you need to always figure out how good you are right now on the next thing you're going to do. And when a guy says to you, like I'm there looking to possibly play football in that team, when you listen to the coach say, "I don't think you're tough enough," he got me to sign up for life. I was going to show him. Looking in the rearview mirror is not the best use of your time ever. And complacency was a word that Coach, in that discussion, took out of the dictionary for good. The second quadrant of my compass started out about the 3rd day of camp. It's called one-on-ones. The coach had decided that he was going to convince us that size does not matter. So the one-on-one drill, he took the smallest guy in the team, took the biggest guy on the team. The smallest guy was down he was blocking the big guy. And the coach would have a whistle. He would tell them, "Go on the whistle." And you knew, because it was pretty straightforward, that this was going to be a losing proposition for the little guy. But the coach was convinced that that was an equal match. He blew the whistle. The smaller guy gets in underneath the bigger guy and stands them up. And then the whistle's supposed to blow. Coach never blew that second whistle. He just let you get your helmet in its numbers, you stand them up, and you keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And don't ever say you're tired. And don't ever quit. And you learn very quickly that you weren't even going to have the chance to say, I tried. You learn to just start what I've used all my life as the second quadrant, a relentless pursuit of whatever the hell you're doing. No one is going to stop you. And that was the reality in the second quadrant, that size doesn't matter. Why that's so important going through life is because what the coach got when he pushed that agenda saying that size doesn't matter, make it work, is he was telling us that just follow the right technique. Technique, and he used that word technique. And then we finally figured out we better figure out to take advantage of being the little guy, because when you really think about it, the smaller the little guy is, he can get inside underneath the bigger guy relatively easier than the other way around, if you really think your way through it. And so this relentless pursuit was only possible if you focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's called execution. And he would say, execute, that we'd run those plays, just execution. And today in our business that I've been at for the last 3 quarters, or 2 quarters of life, we don't have managers. We got execution directors. We don't have managing directors. And execution was the favorite word out of Coach Knight. And along the way, he deleted out of the dictionary a very similar word called excuse. And what we found, that size doesn't matter, but execution does matter. We were the smallest organization out of 20 proponents to put together globally 20 consortiums. We were the smallest by a factor of about 150 in capitalization. And we put together a solution that became recognized as one of the 5 Canadian engineering achievements of the 20th century. And we made it happen because we tucked in underneath the big guys, just like we learned how to execute the impossible. The last quadrant I learned in the classroom. I actually wasn't very good at going to class in first years. Coach had to put the arm on some of our professors to cut me some extra tutoring time. And I used to have to work in the coach's offices at night on the bridge. And the reason why I had to do my work at night on the bridge is because the security guards would keep track of whether I was actually on the bridge in the office working or I was down in the loo drinking beer. So, but they got that kicked out of me by the end of university. And that last quadrant is that time matters. I was studying economics, And economics is a science of man's utilization of scarce resources. Man's most valuable and most elastic resource is time. You can't get more of it. You can't buy it. It is what it is, and it's not going to change, and you have to learn how to win the game in spite of that reality. In that driven execution excellence that was pushed during those practices on that field took a positive spin on every day of the rest of my life that I've been living to date. Today, I'm in the beginning of the fourth quarter of the journey. Time does matter. Execution excellence is the motto that we've been working under everything in our work and our play of life. And in the at the end of all of the things we learned on that practice field, we learned that winning wasn't just possible, it was doable anytime you wanted to. And when all else fails, losing sucks so much, winning is easier. And that's what I remember about my years at Laurier. Thank you.